Should we teach children virtues or values? What do you think? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting and good communication all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about virtues versus values. In this video, we're going to talk about the difference between virtues and values and why there is a misunderstanding culturally about what is the best to teach to children. And then we're also going to be talking about what you can do to make sure that preferred teaching hits home. Virtues and values. It sounds like I'm talking about the same thing, that both of those words start with the letter V, and we use them oftentimes synonymously with each other. So many times people will say, well, that isn't one of my values, when they actually mean it's not one of their virtues. And oftentimes people neglect the concept of virtues altogether. However, it is the virtues that are the older concept. Even though values are an important part of a person, their virtues are actually more of their foundation than their values usually. However, we could script a person to put their values as a higher priority than virtues, and that could end up making a person become a little bit different morally. Let me explain. Values are more about what you care about, your opinions, the things that you value. Virtues, by contrast, are more about the truths that you believe, the object of your very existence. People have been discussing virtues and values probably since the beginning of time, and there are some really great thoughts from people like Aristotle, Plato, Socrates on the value of virtues. So we're going to be discussing virtues today. Virtues are best taught by everyone in society, especially if society can agree upon what true virtues really are. Now, virtues by nature are supposed to be based upon truths, so they should be things that are broadly acceptable and applicable to everyone. Most virtues are actually also principles for general conduct and thought throughout life that will lead a person to success. But values are very different. Values are best taught by parents to children, and sometimes the values are taught by other people, such as pop culture, social media, even in the schoolroom. Sometimes values being taught in those environments can actually end up being unethical. It might not be right for a person who does not hold the same beliefs or the same virtues as the person they're teaching to end up teaching what they should value. Teaching someone virtues is better than teaching them your values. This does not mean that them learning your values is a bad thing, but when we're really trying to help a person's character develop, we want to focus on virtue training instead of values training. So let's talk about the difference then between virtues and values. What is it that virtue actually means? So what do virtues mean? In Webster's 1828 dictionary, which if you know me by now, if you've listened to any of the stuff on this channel, then you know that I'm constantly quoting Webster's 1828 dictionary. It's one of my favorite books, probably aside from scripture. And it's because that the words in Webster's 1828 dictionary are not tainted. They have not been adjusted. They are to their original definition. So we have semantically changed so many words in our culture, sometimes even taken a good term, something that would be very powerful for culture, and we have turned it into a bad thing because we have now redefined it. This is a dangerous thing for me. So I always go back to the old definition if I can find it. So I want to share with you, there's a great app on my phone, Webster's 1828 dictionary, and I want to share with you the definition of virtue. So virtue means moral goodness, the practice of moral duties, and the abstaining from vice, or a conformity of life and conversation to the moral law. In this sense, Virtue may be, and in many instances must be, distinguished from religion. So virtue isn't necessarily religion. That's important. But it has everything to do with your moral conduct and your moral fortitude. The practice of moral duties merely from motives of convenience or from compulsion or from regard to reputation is virtue as distinct from religion. The practice of moral duties from sincere love to God and His laws is virtue and religion. In the sense it is true. Now that is a deep definition. In fact, Webster goes on and on to discuss what virtue really means. He's saying here that when someone is religious, they may follow something that is virtuous by practice. It may even be a truth, but virtue isn't about making someone do something according to a list. Virtue is deeper than that. Virtue is the heart condition that a person has. In fact, when a person is virtuous, they want to do things differently than other people may do. They want to live according to those morals and that conduct. It's not something they're doing just because a certain faith tradition suggests that this is what they should do. Now, this doesn't mean that a person doesn't pay attention to who they ought to be. They do. In fact, when a person has virtue, they are focusing very heavily on who they ought to be, but it's something that runs deep in them. Now, Aristotle spent a lot of time pondering, I think, on the concept of virtue. We're going to talk about some of his thoughts, but before we do that, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Aristotle had a lot to say and we're going to learn from him, but first we need to make sure that we understand the definition of value. What does it mean to value something? Well, when something has a high value, that means that there's a high price tag attached to it, right? Well, even Webster in the 1828 dictionary says that to value something is to rate something at a high price, to have a high esteem for something, to consider with respect or importance. It's to show that something is worth something to you. So something has worth. That property and the properties that something contains are valuable to maybe you or to other people. So when you value something, when something is part of your values, that means that you think that that particular thing is important to you or might be important to society. So you have decided to value it or put it in a position of priority or importance. Aristotle believed that even though truly virtuous people were incredibly rare, that they did actually exist, that you could work incrementally on yourself and actually become more and more virtuous in the process. Can you do the same thing with your values? Can you work on your values and the things that you care about more and more and more and actually become a better version of yourself? Not really. You could end up valuing something that's amoral. You could value something that hurts you. There are some people that value their phones or their TVs and being on them, and in the end, those devices end up disconnecting them from other people, hurting relationships, wasting a lot of time, creating habits and addictions, all because they value those items too much. Your values are directly related to your priorities, but your virtues might not be. You might have a virtue, say, of courage or patience, but you may not actually be working on it. The idea is to take your virtues and put them in the value category. If you decide to value your virtues, then you can become a more virtuous person. Being a virtuous person is not a checklist. It's actually a focus. It's a direction that you're headed. Now, I talk here on this channel all about self-government. The whole idea of self-government is that you know which direction you're headed and you keep yourself focused in that direction. So am I saying then that if a person is self-governing, that that's actually a virtue that they have to have, is self-government? Yes, I am. So self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So what that means is a person says, who ought I to be? What is the best version of Nicholeen Peck that I could become? Now, can I want that enough to align my life with it? And then as I go through life, I'm going to examine myself again and again and see if I am in alignment with who I know I truly ought to be the best version of myself. So I'm aligning my wants with my ought, and I'm heading forward in that direction. That's literally what it means to self-govern yourself. And as soon as you embark upon that path, you are willing to have integrity, be more open-minded about yourself and about change, to be honest, to have courage, to make changes within yourself. And if you haven't noticed, all those words that I'm listing are actually virtues. So when you are a self-governed person, you are hopefully on track to becoming a virtuous person as well. Living according to virtues is really beneficial to a person. When we teach our children to have virtue and to value their virtues, we actually ultimately teach them how to have good judgment, how to have self-control, and how to socially succeed. When a person lives virtuously, they are more socially acceptable. People enjoy being around them. So what types of virtues should we teach our children? Well, if you've liked this video, I'm pretty sure you'll love my next one, which is what virtues are most important for children to learn. Click on the link to that video now. I'll see you there.